You think June is too late to plant. I thought the same thing. For 3 years I watched June pass by and told myself the season was over. And every single time I paid for that mistake with a dead, empty garden by August. That would be a mistake, and I'm done making it. Here's what nobody tells you. June is not the end of the planting window. For 5 specific crops, June is actually the perfect time to go in the ground. Miss this window and you will watch your garden coast to nothing while your neighbors are still pulling food in September and October. And here's the part that's going to surprise you. Not one of these crops needs fertilizer. No bone meal, no fish emulsion, no grow lights, no store run. These 5 plants were feeding families for centuries before any of that existed, and they will feed your family this season on 0 input. Stay with me to the end because I'm going to tell you my single favorite variety for each crop. The ones I personally grow and will never stop growing. And I'll tell you exactly why they outperform everything else without any help from a bottle. Let's get into it. Malabar spinach. The first crop I regret not planting every year I skipped it is Malabar spinach. Regular spinach bolts in June heat and turns bitter within days. It's done. Malabar spinach thrives in that exact same heat. The hotter it gets, the more it produces. It climbs, it spreads, and it gives you cutting after cutting all the way through summer and into fall without a single input from you. Here's how I plant it. I bury the seeds about 1/2 inch deep, right where I want them to grow, and I water them in once. That's it. The soil's already warm in June. Germination happens fast, usually within 5 to 7 days. It asks nothing else from you. Now for variety. I grow Bacella alba, the white stem type. It's milder in flavor than the red stem variety, which means more people in my family will actually eat it. It's also an absolute powerhouse climber, and if you give it a fence or a trellis, it will cover it completely by late July. Pest and disease strategy, almost none. Heat-loving, humidity-tolerant, and insects largely leave it alone. This is one of the most low-drama plants I've ever grown. Yard-long beans. The second crop is yard-long beans, and this one genuinely changed the way I think about summer production. Regular green beans struggle in summer heat. They drop blossoms. They produce in a short window and then they're done. Yard-long beans, also called asparagus beans or Chinese long beans, were bred for exactly the conditions June throws at you. High heat, high humidity, full sun. They produce continuously from midsummer all the way to first frost without any intervention from you. No fertilizer, no amendments. These plants fix their own nitrogen. They are literally feeding the soil while they feed you. Planting in June is ideal because the soil temperature is exactly where they want it, above 65 degrees Fahrenheit. I sow them directly, 2 seeds per pole, water in and walk away. By the time other gardeners are fighting heat stress with their bean plants, mine are climbing and producing. My variety, Orient Wonder, consistently reliable, disease resistant, and the beans stay tender even when they get long. I've grown others, but I keep coming back to this one. Seminole pumpkin, third crop, and this one carries the most history of anything I grow. Seminole pumpkin is a Native American heirloom that survived Florida summers, humid subtropical conditions, and 0 agricultural inputs for centuries. The Seminole people grew this without irrigation systems, without fertilizer schedules, without anything we think we need today. It fed entire communities. When you plant it in June, it goes in the ground and it runs. This vine will cover ground aggressively. Kiru, if you let it climb a fence, it will take the fence. It produces large, dense, hard-shelled pumpkins that store for up to a year without refrigeration. A year. Let that land. The flavor is richer and nuttier than any store pumpkin. The shell hardens so well that it doesn't need curing. And the pest resistance is remarkable. Thick leaves, vigorous growth. It outpaces most pest pressure through sheer speed. I plant mine in a mound with whatever organic material I have on hand, kitchen scraps buried underneath, a handful of finished compost if I have it, nothing if I don't. Water it in deeply once, then let it run. This is the crop that made me stop buying winter squash entirely. Sweet potato, fourth crop, and this one is almost embarrassingly low input. Sweet potato slips planted in June will give you a full harvest by October or November. The vine covers the ground, suppresses weeds for you, and the roots swell underground with zero attention. No fertilizer. In fact, if you over-fertilize sweet potatoes, you get enormous vines and tiny roots. So the low-input approach is not just acceptable, it's actually optimal. The only thing sweet potatoes need is warm soil, which June gives you, and decent drainage. If your soil is compacted, I loosen it with a fork before planting slips. That's the full extent of soil prep. I grow Beauregard for main production. Heavy yielder, good disease resistance, excellent flavor. But I also keep a row of Puerto Rican, an old homestead variety with purple skin and white flesh that stores beautifully and has a drier, starchier texture that my family prefers for certain dishes. Harvest cue, when the vines start to yellow and the season cools. Don't overthink it. Moringa, 5th crop. And this might be the one you've never planted but will never stop growing once you do. Moringa oleifera planted from seed in June will reach 6 feet or taller by fall in most climates. Every part of it is edible, the leaves, the pods, the seeds. The leaves are one of the most nutrient-dense things you can grow, with a protein profile that rivals animal sources, and it grows on nothing. Poor soil, minimal water once established, no fertilizer ever. This plant was not discovered by wellness brands. It has been feeding people in tropical and subtropical regions across Africa, South Asia, and Central America for thousands of years. It was a survival crop long before it was a superfood. I direct sow in June because the soil temperature gives me strong germination within a week. I plant 2 or 3 seeds per spot, thin to the strongest one, and it takes over from there. By fall, I'm harvesting leaves continuously. In warm climates, it comes back every year. In colder zones, it grows as an annual with remarkable speed. No pest pressure worth mentioning. The only input it ever gets from me is a deep watering at transplant. That's it. Now I promised you at the start, my single favorite variety for every crop on this list. Here it is, straight up. Malabar spinach, Bacella alba, white-stemmed, mild, prolific, unbothered by heat. Yard long beans, Orient Wonder, stays tender, produces long, disease-resistant. Seminole pumpkin, the original Seminole heirloom, no substitutes, this is the one. Sweet potato, Beauregard for yield, Puerto Rican for flavor and storage. Moringa, PKM1, a dwarf variety bred for heavy leaf production and easy harvest height. These are not paid recommendations. I don't have affiliate links, I don't have a storefront. These are just what I grow and what works. Here's what I want to leave you with. Every crop on this list was feeding human beings long before there was a garden center to walk into. Every one of them thrives in June heat without any of the inputs other channels will tell you are essential. The gardening industry needs you to believe that growing food is complicated, that you need the right fertilizer and the right amendment and the right product in the right order. I'm here to tell you from personal experience, that's not true. It was never true. Plant these 5 crops this June. Give them your soil, your sun, and a watering in at planting. Then step back and let them do what they were built to do. I'll see you in the next one.